Got my laptop here. I wanted to record outside today because it's a really nice day. Normally I'll have my laptop and I'll have a bunch of notes written down for what I want to talk about, and I'll have it on the side, but today I thought just have it right in front of me. It's easier so I don't forget what I'm going to say. So I want you to imagine that it's late at night. You're having trouble falling asleep. You need to get up in the morning. It's like 2, 3 a.m., right? And so what do? How do you get yourself to relax? How do you fall back asleep? You most likely, if you clicked on this video, you roll over, you grab your phone, you go to your favorite website, and then you start relaxing yourself, right? Relaxing. But then you wake up the next morning and you don't really feel relaxed, right? You feel shitty. You feel like you didn't get much sleep. You feel regret. You feel guilt. You feel shame. Like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I not just try and go to sleep some other way? Why did I start looking at that stuff? You're feeling bad because you're like, oh, I don't want to be consuming that kind of content. I don't want this habit to be a part of my life anymore. But yeah, here you are, you did it anyways, and you have to wake up this next morning and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're brushing your teeth, and you feel disgusted. You feel disgusted with yourself. And then you go to school, you go to work, wherever it is that you need to go, and maybe you see, this cute girl that you always see there, and maybe you have a crush on her, and oh look, she's looking at you, she's smiling at you, right? She's walking over here, maybe she wants to say hi, and what do? You look away, right? You just look down really quickly and you scurry off the other way because you are just feeling so bad. You're feeling so in your own head that you can't bear to look her, let alone anyone else, in the eyes. And it's kind of the same reoccurring story over and over, right? You're nervous, you're in your own head, your energy's kind of all over the place, you're beating yourself up, you're feeling guilty, you're feeling shameful, and you just don't know why. You're going through the whole day and you're just feeling super shitty. And then you get home at the end of the day and you just had a terrible day. And then you get ready for bed, and what happens this night? Same thing. You can't sleep. You're laying up at like 2, 3 in the morning, staring up at the ceiling. Nothing is happening. No matter what you try, you can't fall asleep. And so what do? Despite your better judgment, despite knowing better, you do the exact same thing you did last night. You go and you grab your phone, you go to maybe the orange and black website, for example. You probably know the one I'm talking about, and you just continue this cycle. I've seen this story play out way too many times in my life, yes, but in so many other people's lives as well. I feel like we're at a place where, in our generation especially, where this is almost become normal, this cycle of consuming this kind of content and then beating yourself up, feeling bad because you deep down you don't want to watch it, it doesn't make you feel good, aside from maybe like 5 seconds, right? Despite it not making you feel good and actually making you feel really bad and really negative throughout the day, you just can't seem to stop doing it. I think porn and like over-sexualization is one of the biggest problems in our generation, in our society, not just in America, but all over the world. And more and more people have started to talk about it, but I don't think it's talked about enough. I think it's really a big issue that, if left unchecked, is just going to continue to cripple society as a whole as we go from us, Gen Z, to like Gen Alpha, and then beyond that, as we become the main members of society. If we're growing up with this crippling addiction, I feel like it's just going to continue to tear away our ability to communicate, our ability to look each other in the eyes. But overall, it's just going to have really negative impact on our individual and also societal social development and mental and emotional development. And for most of us, whether you're a man or a woman watching this, most of us were exposed to this kind of content when we were kids. Like for me, I was probably maybe 11 or 12. It was honestly kind of a blur. I don't remember exactly. I just remember we had like Comcast on demand, if you remember Comcast, and there would be like, you could find videos of like, I think it was like bikini photo shoots or something. You know, if you ever had cable television and you scroll down to like the channels in the 800s, 900s, and it was like the late night TV, that was kind of my first exposure to like adult content and this kind of stuff. But then you would go to school and then you would hear other kids talking about the same thing, like, oh, I saw this video last night on this website. You know, they would try and be subtle so they wouldn't get caught by the teachers talking about it, but we all kind of knew, like, amongst ourselves, amongst the rest of the students, we all kind of knew like what it was and whatnot. And that was kind of my first exposure to it. And eventually I found those websites, you know, end of middle school, beginning of high school, and I started watching them because, of course, you're a kid, you don't know any better, you're just curious. You're like, oh, what is this? Everybody keeps talking about it, right? Like, oh, these girls are really attractive, like, what's going on? And then you see this and you're like, what is this? Like, you're exposed to this stuff at like 11, 12, 13, and you know what it is, but it's just so visceral, it's so raw, it's so not natural. And because I didn't know any better, I started consuming this content on a daily basis. It became not just habitual, but it became almost ritual. Every day I'd come home from school, immediately first thing I do, I'd go upstairs, not to my room, but to my bathroom, because my room didn't have a lock on the door, but my bathroom did. And you know the drill. I lock the door, pull out your phone, go find the website, do what you need to do, right? I'll just have like multiple tabs open, switching from video to video, genre to genre. Just, you know, your brain is just getting so much stimulation from all this stuff, especially as a kid. You don't know what's going on. You're just like, oh, like, what's in that video? What's in that video? Oh, this girl's hot, that girl's hot, right? Like, what's going on? You're like 13, 14, and literally just going through puberty, and then your brain is still in the middle of development, and you're getting all this overstimulation, right, from all these different websites, all these different sources. And you get this like build up, this buzz, this high almost. It's very drug-like. In fact, it is a drug. There's literally been studies that show that when you consume porn, when you watch porn, it literally affects your brain the same as if you were to take heroin or meth or cocaine. And it's not even just the watching it, but it was the build up to it, right? The ritual, the anticipation, the waiting to get home, the going and locking the door, and the searching, the seeking. That is like the build up that leads to, you know, the climax, the high, the chemical explosion of dopamine and whatnot in your brain. And that's what causes the addiction. That's what causes you to like get hooked on this stuff, especially at a young age when your brain is still developing. And now your brain is developing in a way where you're becoming reliant on that. You're becoming reliant on that buildup and that buzz and that chemical cocktail, you know, that chemical explosion in your brain. When you're 13, 14, 15, 16, your brain is still developing. It's going to become natural to your brain to need that stuff, to need to consume that stuff, to need to get that chemical reaction going every single day, because that's what you're training your brain to do. And it became this thing where I not only was using it as a drug, but like so many other people, using it as escapism, right? Using it as a way to release stress or just get away from problems, distract yourself, or as a way to even, for me, I was trying to live vicariously through the people on the screen. You know, you try and imagine that you're the guy in the video, right? For me, instead of dealing with issues of social anxiety, body image issues, you know, low self-esteem, low confidence, you know, I just run away from all that instead of facing it and overcoming it, you know, actually going out and talking to people, getting over social anxiety, actually going and exercising or joining a club or sports team and, you know, getting healthier and showing love to my body, you know, instead of actually going and talking to girls in my class and maybe like asking them on a date or something and, you know, actually getting some real world experience with dating, with sex. Instead of doing that, I would just run away, right? The fear of that, it would build up in my mind because I wasn't going out and taking care of these anxieties. And so it would build up over time into something that is bigger than it actually is, right? The fear of it in my mind was bigger than the actual problem in reality. And so now I'm just sitting here all alone, gaslighting my brain into thinking that I'm having sex with all these girls when really I'm just some dude, some kid, some teenager, like sitting there all by himself looking at pixels on a screen. And just on a side note, you sitting there just watching this shit, it's weird. Like, that shit's weird and it's creepy, bro. It not only is it pixels on a screen, but you're just sitting there watching two strangers like get it on. That's weird. Like, really think about this for a second. That's so weird. Imagine you're like a caveman, your little unga boonga caveman ass, like hiding in the bushes, and then you see the cute cave girl from the village that you like, and then you're just watching her like take a bath or something. You're hiding in the bushes watching her take a bath, or you're watching her like get it on like Chad Mungus, the caveman or something, like, and you're just hiding there watching. It's weird. Or you're, hiding up in the trees with the binoculars, like looking at the girl next door through the window, like in the movies, like George McFly, if you've seen Back to the Future, he was doing that to Marty's mom. And it's like, dude, George, you're weird. You're a fucking creep. And you're literally cucking yourself, dude. It's literally, watching porn is virtual cucking, dude. You are literally sitting there watching a girl you find attractive get fucked by another guy. You're a cuck if you watch that shit. Like, you took a trip to Cuck E. Cheese, bro. Like, you're not the guy in the video. You're just watching some other dude, like, clap cheeks. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why would you want to do that? Like, let's get into reality. Let's get away from the escapism and shit. Like, let's really look at this objectively. That's weird. But of course, I didn't understand this at the time, being 15, 16 years old. And so I just dug my heels in deeper. I just went further into the addiction. I just got further lost in the sauce, And it just became a thing where it was very powerful. It was difficult to escape because you don't know any better at the time. You think what you're doing is normal. Everybody tells you, oh, it's normal, it's healthy, it's safe. But it's not good for you. It's very, very damaging. Like I said, it's literally a drug. And so at this time, because I continued to watch that stuff and dig my heels in deeper and get deeper into this addiction, get deeper into this problem, my self-image and self-love, self-respect issues that I was running away from, they just continued to get worse. And so instead of it making me feel better, it's actually making me feel even less self-love, even less self-image, or an even worse self-image rather. I was feeling more insecure than ever because of this stuff. It literally got to the point where I didn't even believe I was capable of romance, of love. I didn't think any girls would want to go out with me on a date or be in a relationship with me or sleep with me. That was never even a possibility in my mind. And I was right, because that was the reality I was creating with my mind. I was creating that reality by not taking action, by not putting myself out there. I was living according to the lies in my head. So because I believed it to be true, it became true in reality. I was living in my own mental illusion, which was created by my mind, by my ego, out of fear, right? Fear for putting myself out there, getting out of my comfort zone, and the discomfort and the potential pain that can come with getting out of your comfort zone. My brain, my ego created this bubble, this zone. It's like, oh, you can be here, you can be safe, just, get this dopamine, get this pleasure, this short-term pleasure, and escape all that pain, all that fear. You don't have to deal with any of that. But then all that did was make me feel worse. So what was promised as sweetness was actually poison. And so this is happening all during my formative years, right? I'm 26 now, and this is happening at its peak in high school. So 15, 16, 17. And it's literally stunting my growth socially, emotionally, even sexually. 3 things I want you to take away from this. Number 1, because I was constantly consuming porn, I put sex and women on a massive pedestal for so long without actually interacting with women, without actually talking to them like on a regular basis. Yeah, I would interact with them, but it would just be, you're at school and just interact with your classmates and then you go home. Not really anything crazy. But because then I'm going home and I'm consuming all this crap, now the addict part of your brain, the part of your brain that becomes addicted to that stuff, now just craves that. It craves sex, it craves women. And not even from a place of natural, just being a man and like wanting to be with women, like not from a natural place, but from a place of just wanting to get the high, wanting to get that chemical explosion that I talked about. And you get to a point where now you see them in real life and you literally just see them as objects. You don't see them as real people, because your brain, you've trained it over time, over consuming this content, to see them as a means to an end, a means to get that high, rather than an actual person with actual emotions and actual life and actual goals and dreams and actual personality. They're just an object for you to get your rocks off, to get your addiction high. And so when you interact with them, you really can't interact with them, because you can't see them as normal people, because you have been training yourself to not see them as normal people. And so then you wonder, why is it so hard to talk to girls, right? There's so many videos now about like how to talk to women. It's like, dude, they're just regular people. The problem is you're not seeing them as regular people. You're seeing them as some magic unicorn or some special snowflake or something. It's like they're just human beings, and then you just interact with them like any other human being. But when you're constantly consuming this stuff, not even just actually watching videos, maybe you're just going on Instagram or TikTok and like you're just scrolling through all like the booty pictures and stuff, and it's like, even that is you're subconsciously training your brain to put sex and put women on a pedestal and to treat them as objects for sex and for sexual desire, as opposed to treating them as human beings, again, who have real emotions, real lives. And so then you just feel bad, and it's like, oh man, getting a girlfriend is so hard, getting laid is so hard. And then what do? You just go right back to what makes you feel good, which is the porn, the corn, right? The prawn, whatever you want to call it. And then the cycle continues. It's a vicious cycle. You consume this stuff, it makes you feel bad and it makes you awkward around women and everything. And then you can't actually get anything in real life. And then so you go right back to it, because now you feel bad again, except that was what caused the problem in the first place. So you just keep going around and around this circle. And for years and years, I didn't even realize it. It wasn't until my freshman year of college, and I'm sitting in my dorm, and I just watched another video, right? I just got on there again. I'm sitting there alone, and I don't know what came over me. It's like God or the universe just spoke to me. And I just had this thought, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, maybe this is not good for me, because I don't feel good. And hopefully you start to realize this as well, that this stuff is not good for you. Second thing is that when you are constantly consuming this stuff, you're running away from your problems. And when you're constantly running away from your problems, you actually let them become a bigger deal than they actually are. So in your mind, what might be some small issue, like, oh, I get a little nervous when I talk to people. If you keep running away from that and running to mindless consumption, mindless pleasure, mindless dopamine, now that becomes something that is a much bigger issue than it actually is, right? You've turned a molehill into a mountain, when it really wasn't that big of a deal. If you would just go and say hi to a few people, you kind of get over it and get into a rhythm of socializing and whatnot. But now you've just been procrastinating, you've been putting it off, you've been distracting yourself from it. So now it's even worse, because you spent so much more time running away from that issue, that now your first instinct is to run away. When you're confronted with something difficult, now your first instinct is to run away from that instead of face it and deal with the problem and move on with your life. And you create this like fantasy land where you're just living in some illusion, right? Like I was living in an illusion of my own creation that kept leading me back to this junk, right? Back to the addiction, back to the bad habit, whatever you want to call it. If I just paid attention to reality for like 1 minute, I would have seen that, oh, it's actually not that difficult to, face my fears. It's actually not that difficult to overcome, the mental hurdles that I might be having. Third and final thing is that when you're constantly watching porn, you become, I call it porn sexual, where you literally train your brain to only get aroused by watching that shit, by having the build up, right? The anticipation, the searching, the seeking, and the watching of the video. That eventually, when you do that so often, that becomes the only way you can get off. And then you end up dealing with problems like erectile dysfunction, for example, right? PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. That's a real issue that a lot of guys our age are dealing with right now, because they are training themselves to only get off to porn. So then when you're with a real woman, it's like you can't get it up. It's like you have the testosterone of like an old man or something all of a sudden, because you don't know what it's like to be with a real woman, right? This mindless dopamine chasing, or this zombie mode as I like to call it, that's now become the only way that you can get your rocks off, right? This addiction, this chasing of the chemical explosion in your brain, the dopamine hit in your brain, that's the only way you can get off now. So you have now become porn sexual, and you wonder what's wrong, and you feel bad about it again, and then so you run right back to the addiction. Now, I know this video was kind of negative. I didn't really give a lot of advice or actionable steps like I normally do. I'll get into that in later videos. I just wanted to be negative on purpose, almost, just to get you to understand that this cuck shit is not who you are. It's not good for you. It's not who you are. It's not what you want out of life. If you're watching this video, I know you're trying to quit. You're probably doing like NoFap, or you're practicing semen retention or something. And I want you to keep practicing those things. I'll get more into stuff like that in the upcoming videos. But just know that, or let this be a reminder rather, that it's not worth it. Watching porn, following this addiction, this over-sexualization, is not worth it. It's not who you are. It's not what you want. What you want is reality. What you want is real connection with yourself, first and foremost, on an internal, deeper spiritual level, and then, of course, with those around you. So focus on that. Focus on the connection with yourself and the connection with real people around you, and that will start to lead you in the right direction. And again, I'll talk about more of this in upcoming videos, but right now, just stay away from the porn, man. It's not good for you, and it's not worth it.